This is Jim Bratton Podcast, Business Edition. In-depth conversations with entrepreneurs and business owners. Now, here's Jim.
Thank you all for joining us, by the way. We're talking to Cedric Crumbley. He and I have known each other for a long, long time. He is a realtor and author. He is a retired military. An interesting job there. And full disclosure, one of his books I narrated, so I have a particularly affinity for his work, and both creative and business-wise. All right, so let's talk about, we had a conversation earlier that we'll probably stick some of in here, but you were in the military.
Yes.
Recruiting.
So when I met you at that time, I was recruiting medical students.
Right.
Before I met you, I was doing what I call street recruiting, where you go to like parking lots, high schools, and you basically recruit anybody between the ages of 17 to, I think, 34 years old. Then after a period of years, I ended up getting into medical recruiting. That's when I met you at the coffee shop.
Right.
And my job was because I wanted to specialize in one select area. So I decided to specialize in what's called the Health Profession Scholarship Program. Is where you help students get a scholarship that pays for medical school.
Right.
Yeah.
So that had to be, you learned a lot, didn't you?
Well, I did. I learned a lot, and I learned to respect physicians because I learned what they go through.
Just to get there.
Yeah, just to become a physician, because I had a hard time recruiting the medical students because we're in Houston, and it's not like you can just say, hey, we'll offer you a chance to serve your country. It's not going to really go too far. So I had to actually get into the world. And what I would do was I figured out I had to know the journey of a doctor to recruit a medical student. So I interviewed pre-med students the way I was able to do this experiment.
Right.
I would go to them and say, hey, will you go to have coffee with me? And of course they would say, I don't want to join the military. Like, well, you don't have to join the military, but my job is to recruit students, and I don't want to recruit you necessarily, but I can't know how to do my job unless I
Have to understand
your world. And so I interviewed pre-med students, I interviewed medical students, I interviewed residents, and I interviewed the actual physicians. So I went through the actual journey of what it takes to become a physician, and I got so good at it that I noticed that medical students started referring their friends to me and said, hey, you need to go talk to that guy. He actually knows how to become a physician. Because what people don't realize, if you want to become a physician, there are not too many counselors that can actually tell you the path. So I didn't know it, but I was getting better at helping students become physicians than some counselors that are at these schools, because I took time to go through the process to understand that.
Most interesting. You took the success in that, and of course, wrote the book that we narrated.
Yeah.
And it's been a successful audiobook and published and print book.
Mm-hmm.
And then, let me see, you got out, you looked at supply side things.
Supply chain.
An advanced degree. Tell me all about this whole degree thing, man. It got confusing too.
So what's interesting is the reason why I ended up getting a supply chain degree is when I retired from the military, I was set on I was going to be a motivational speaker. I was actually going to go and speak, and I also had the opportunity to be a traveling salesman. I was going to sell all kind of products, make all kind of money. My wife told me, well, you traveled the world your whole career. Why don't you stay home and spend more time with your family? Because you've already seen the world. You've
done your road time.
Right. You've done that. Why don't you spend more time with your family? And she said, don't you have the GI Bill? Why don't you use that and you can go and get a degree? And that's what landed me into getting a degree in supply chain management. And I worked in supply chain management. I worked for a gentleman that when I say his name, everybody knows who he is.
So you're not going to say his name?
No, but because he was very good to me. And it was the first time I worked for a billionaire, and he taught me some things. And the people at that company, they treated me like royalty. I really enjoyed it. And I moved from there, and I ended up going to software. While I was at that company, I helped them launch a startup. It was my first time launching a startup. That was pretty cool. And today that startup is, I think, 5 years old. But I left there and went to software. And while I did software, I know I got this wide.
I'm listening, man, and everybody else is too. So listen in, guys.
Well, the thing is, what people don't understand, and you don't know this until you retire from something like the military after 20 years, you have to start a new identity. And I think that's why so many people go through depression after retiring. So I was in search for forming a new identity instead of just being a soldier. I was looking for a way to start a new identity outside the military.
But building upon that.
Bidding on that.
Yes, yeah.
And so, and along that path, I was also consulting, because people would find out what they would get the book,
Right.
read the book, and because of that book, they would ask me, well, can you help me with my company? And they would pay me on the side every month to help. I was on a retainer
Right.
for a few entrepreneurs, and I ended up, going back to the story, I ended up working for a software company. While at the software company, I was making cold calls to executives. That's when I ended up getting into an MBA, and it got to the point where I had to go full-time with the MBA.
Right.
And the software company told me, well, you got to decide on working full-time with us or going full-time with your MBA.
Right.
And I went to my wife, and my wife said, I think you've been with that company long enough. So that means drop the company and you got to go full-time with the MBA.
You had done you had absorbed what you could there.
Right.
And when I say absorb, two-way street, you were there giving them value for what you were learning, of course, but.
Yeah, and that's funny you say that. Is I remember I looked at something because I was going through the MBA. I looked at what that company was doing, and I asked my supervisor some questions. Like, when the last time you guys have looked at? I forget what it was. How you guys are doing this? And she said, you asked some really good questions. So she brought my question up to the leadership, and she came back and find out they were going to implement what I asked into the company, I think a few quarters later. And so when I told that to my professor said, I think you're highly underpaid. And so that's when I started forming the idea that maybe, and then a Army buddy of mine found out how much I was making, and he said, you need to leave that company now. So other people were already telling me that I was way underpaid.
Right.
Because they were saying, Cedric, I know what you're capable of.
But I'm sure felt lucky to have the job.
I was just lucky to have.
Oh man, you were good with that.
You don't really know your worth until people start giving you the money, or somebody educates you like, hey, you know what? People who know what you know, they're getting paid a lot more.
The other thing is there's a lot of people running there with an MBA with high expectations and demand more money,
right, and
are sorely disappointed.
Where they are, yeah.
And so I love the way you ramped this whole thing up simultaneously. Pretty cool.
Well, so when I left. Then the problem was I had to find money. So I'm like, okay, I left the job.
Right.
Where we going to get the money from?
So you got an MBA now.
Got an MBA.
And?
Then I had to find some money. And I was about to lose my house, about to lose my car. And a buddy of mine, he taught me into getting my real estate license. But when I got the license, I couldn't sell a house because I would ask people, hey, can I help you buy or sell a house? And they would ask me, how long you been in real estate? And I said, well, 2 or 3 months. And they said, well, come back to me when you get some more experience.
A decade from now.
Right. And I'm like, by then my house be foreclosed, my car be gone. And
check the nearest bridge.
Yeah. And so at that time I started getting messages on LinkedIn, and different people started coming to me, offering me jobs. And I was so excited. And I went to a buddy of mine who owns a company, and I told him, hey, I got my MBA. I'm going to go take one of these jobs because I've been struggling. And he said, well, Cedric, if you're smart enough to get an MBA, you're smart enough to run your own business. Why are you going to give your talents, your knowledge to somebody else so that make them millions? Why don't you make your own millions and start your own business? So he's like, use your head, man. And so that's when I went back home and I started thinking, well, how can I make money with what I have? I have a real estate license. How can I make money with this without having to sell a house? And that's when I came across this thing called being a showing agent.
Right.
And so I found this app called Showummy. It's where you get paid to show houses, similar to the same way that an Uber driver makes money driving people around, but you're going around showing houses for real estate agents that are too busy to do it themselves.
Right.
And so I started out, and the only reason that I needed to do that was my car was about to be repossessed, and I had to make a decision. Either I give them $600 or
Give your car.
I would give them the car.
Yeah,
right. So I chose to give up the $600, which is all the money I had left for the rest of the month, and it was the beginning of June. So I gave them $600, and I got to keep the car, but now I had to make the $600 back so I can make it through the end of the month.
Quick.
I need to make it quick. Well, by the end of that month, I had already 3 to 4 times that $600, and I knew that I was onto something.
This was from a 0-point launch.
Right. Yeah. Well, when your car's repossessed or about to be repossessed, and you give up $600, and you got to make $600, you find out a way to make that $600 back. You're gonna.
Not everybody could come up with a way. I'm continually impressed the way you adapt and find a way. It's
when your back is against the wall, you come up with some stuff, man. You make it work. So I would leave like 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
Get back home like maybe 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and I did this for like seven days a week, and so
you were willing to work. I have to ask this: did military discipline come in handy?
It did. Well, it came in handy in ways that I didn't know, because I would show up to a house. I would always try to be 10 or 15 minutes early if I could,
Right.
and I would hear the person calling the client, say, "Hey, is the agent there?" Like, "Yeah, he's here," and a lot of people were not used to somebody showing up on time and being respectful. Like stuff that you would think are normal,
Right.
apparently is like phenomenal out here. You just do the stuff that you were trained to do, and you come out here, they look at you like you're gold. And I
Just show up.
just show up. That's like if you can just show up. What in the military they would tell us: right place, right attitude. If you can just do those simple things,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It'll take you far out here. It'll make you stand out.
That's true. Because not everybody is able to bridge military to business easily.
Right.
And I find it interesting how you were able to apply that discipline and mix it with an open-ended entrepreneurship to define your own mission, if you would.
Yeah. It gave me freedom. There's nothing like you basically get to write your own ticket.
Yeah.
So that's a good feeling.
So then, okay, you showed a jillion houses. Just
Yeah.
working your tail off, it sounds like.
Yeah, I counted it up and found out between June and December, I think I showed 300 homes. Well, but when I started, I didn't even know how to open the door. They put this little blue thing on it, they call it a super. I was struggling so much. And one time, a husband was laughing at me because I was struggling to open this thing. It's an app you use on your phone to open this blue thing. And I bent over to try to see what's wrong, and my butt knocked over plants, and everything went flying. And the husband took off running, laughing. But thankfully, his wife helped me pick up the plants. And it was like, okay. I was so embarrassed. But I couldn't quit. I just have to keep going.
Yeah.
And after showing about 300 homes, you get very proficient at certain tasks.
You know the questions.
Yeah, you know the questions. And another thing that you learn is you learn the area. So I was showing homes all over Houston. This just recently, because now I'm helping my clients purchase homes. I just helped a client that was looking for a townhome. I was showing them townhomes. And because I shown so many homes, I knew of a new development that was down the street. I said, "Hey, would you like to go see this other townhome?" And we just went over there by the fly. And the minute he stepped in, he was like, "This is one. This is one. This is one." And he said, "Cedric, I need to let you fly by your pants more often." It's only because once you see so many homes and you see the area of Houston, you know almost what's in. Most people go to horror, but when you show so many properties, you become like your own horror.
Yeah, of course.
Horror is
It becomes intuitive then.
Yes. You get really good at knowing your market.
You started your own chat GPT.
Yeah, there you go. So that's a better word. Yeah, become like your own chat GPT. My wife called me that the other day. She's like, you're like a chat GPT or whatever she said. But yeah.
So where are things now then?
Well, now I'm really happy. Out of showing those homes, a gentleman actually brought me in to a meeting at Starbucks, and I didn't know what the meeting was for, but it was because I had shown his clients, and he said, "My client's been raving about you. Can you have a meeting with us?" So I just went to the meeting, and they asked me a lot of questions. And 2 days later, he said, "You didn't know it, but that was an interview. We want you on our team." And so it's like now he's the one who asked me focus more on helping clients buy and sell homes instead of just showing. So he he brought me out of showing homes. So I'm no longer a showing agent for everybody in Houston. I'm just a showing agent for my clients and for, the brokers that I work for.
Right.
And I feel, it makes you feel whole because I trust the people I'm with. I don't have to watch my back.
Yeah.
And it's good. And I really get to help people. Well, one thing that changed my mind about the whole because I still wasn't sold on real estate, even when I got into it. It wasn't until I gave the keys to a house to a lady and she kept saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. And to me, it was just a set of keys, but she said, thank you so much. I just did not want my kids to have to live in an apartment anymore. I wanted them to have a backyard. And that's when it hit me. This isn't just about making a lot of money. You're actually helping a mom that wants a backyard for their kids. So it gives you a reason to get out of bed, right?
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's what it takes.
Yeah.
Isn't that exciting to have just be excited about what you do every day?
Man, it makes a big difference.
Is that so? I mean, just what a way, what an outlook on life it brings you. So you've written a second book now.
Yeah, the War Military Transition.
Yeah. Do you got any more books coming, by the way?
I want to write one on real estate only because the different perspective.
Right.
Kind of like what I just told you about handing the keys to a wife, a mom that is not just about money, but if you actually look at it when you think about you're providing a backyard for somebody's kid to play in.
Right.
And you're being, you're providing shelter, which is a human need. So it's not really you're not selling because it's something somebody already wants. What you have to do is you have to become that trusted advisor that people can trust. Because not until they trust you will they actually reveal to you ways that you can help them.
You are, I'm not trying to just throw inadvertent compliments your way, but you have a unique way to look at people's needs and to try to understand those needs. And I think it's based in a sincere approach to that. You can read all the books on empathy and everything that you want, but they can't change your heart.
Wow, you nailed it with that one, brother.
Thank you. And that's a very, very good compliment. You'll talk to a lot of people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You've got it.
Thanks,
Cedric. Thank you for your time. I mean, what a pleasure. This is great. And thank all of you for listening, watching, whatever you had time to do. And this is Jim Bratton Podcast. We'll see you next time.
This has been Jim Bratton Podcast, Business Edition. Contemporary business conversations. A Jim Bratton production. I'm Sierra Safel.